Welcome, everyone, to this your PR for Growth, a step-by-step guide for a successful 2019. I want to first of all thank you, everyone, for participating this webinar. I just have a few different announcements before I continue the conversation with all of you. We have a big promise for today, and we'll move swiftly to get all of this amazing content out. We are going to be talking about how to develop a successful PR strategy. We're going to talk about how we're going to execute that. We're going to be talking about a new concept that we are now working with. It's PR for Growth. We'll tell you a bit more detail about that. This webinar will be available on our site, publicize.co. If you have not signed up for our newsletter, shoot us a message on the chat section or sign up visiting our website and clicking register. As a note, the content for this webinar has been created by our team, our amazing team, marketing team, and it's detailed in our ebook, The PR for Growth Playbook 2019, available for download now. If you want it, please, once again, send us a message on the chat or send us an email at info@publicize.co. If you like access, just let us know. So let's get started with the presentation. To begin with, I want to be very honest about the reasons why we did this. And the reality is that digital PR has supplanted traditional PR. There are several reasons. And what we are proposing is a mental shift so that we can take many of the tools of digital PR and focus them on actual growth. So let's take a look at the landscape in 2019. For traditional PR, this serves only big companies and corporations. It's mostly focused on crisis and communicating with stakeholders, and it's extremely costly. Most of you would probably know, $5,000, $10,000 a month. And 2019 PR, it should look like a service that serves every company of every size, even very small companies. It should include different range of online platforms and digital tools. And it's relatively cheap. So let's start a conversation with that first framework so that we can start talking about PR for growth. And traditional PR focuses on delivering media coverage just for the sake of media coverage. So think about this. TechCrunch, for example, is viewed as the holy grail of coverage. What this means is companies think or tend to think that if you get on TechCrunch, then this is it. You're going to hit all of your objectives. But the reality is, if this does not align with your business objectives, then it won't bring growth. As startups, what we want is to grow. That is the main thing the companies that we work with come saying. And in the startup world, this is a reality. But growth, for that to happen, you are going to need to be noticed, and you're going to need to be noticed by the right people. So in our minds, PR for growth is not just an add-on, something that you just run, you just have an activity or a tactic, and then you start getting links. It actually requires a stream of activities, month in, month out, wrapped around your business objectives. If you follow this approach, you can keep probably an eye on some common outputs like others do, like credibility, social proof, awareness, improved organic searches. But what we are saying here is that this is a new approach that's designed to deliver growth to startups and growing businesses. So let's start looking into how we could potentially develop a growth strategy. So this is PR for growth, as we mentioned, and this is how we can potentially help develop a strategy. So the first step is to make absolutely clear your business objectives and to make absolutely clear that those business objectives are aligned with your PR goals. So the key component in this exercise is to ask ourselves as a company, what's required to achieve my business goals or my business objectives? Clearly, your PR goals will vary depending on what those business objectives are. So you will need to think about that. So before we have a conversation on PR and executing a PR strategy, we need to have a business conversation. What are your goals? You want to, get out the gate? You want to secure funding? You want to attract talent? What is your business goal? This is important because depending on those, then your strategy and tactics will take form. Let's think, for example, on what we're seeing on the screen right now. We have a startup goal of growing customer or user base. So we need to think about what it's required, just like we mentioned it before. In this particular case, we'll be thinking about credibility, we'll be thinking about awareness, improve organic search rankings, etc. So this is what will shape our PR goals. So we'll look into what our business objectives are and what our PR goals are. Those need to be aligned, and that is how we start the conversation on how PR work is shaped. Now, step number 2 is to develop your narrative. So you have looked into your business objectives, you've looked into your PR objectives. Now you have defined all of this. You need to think about the story behind what you and your team have been working so hard on. But let me give you some breaking news. I know you're reading it right now, and it's right there. It says nobody cares about your product, and this is real. Think about it. You're a writer, you get hundreds of pitches every day. Do you really care about the next super app, whether it is in blockchain, AI? No, you care about a good story. So enumerating a few of the things above, if you have a fascinating backstory, that might be something very attractive for writers, for editors, for publications. So some of the examples that we've seen around the companies that we work with, we've had a former fighter pilot to a luxury jet manufacturer. We've had CEOs that have devoted months traveling in the Amazon to come up with this new product that they thought about. Those are fascinating backstories that can be used. If you also have a deep personal connection with the story, may that be because of a major life event, because of fate, because of personal epiphany, that it's something that could also amplify the power of that story that you have. And of course, the old industry old hand is someone with a lot of experience in the industry. Let's say you have 15, 20 years of experience, and you're bringing in something that it's very different to what's out there at the moment. That is something that will help develop your narrative. So think about what it is that gives origin to your story, and think that every origin story is very unique. So this will help you develop that narrative. Once you're done that, you should identify your influencers. And let me just give you some context around this, because there's a lot of confusion about what an influencer is. And an influencer is not just someone that has a vlog or a video blog or just appears on Instagram or the former now non-existent Vine or whatever. An influencer is someone who is an opinion former, a trendsetter, someone who has a following and a platform, someone that when they say something, there is a specific audience listening. So they are important because they connect us with our target audiences. So we should look at them as the gatekeepers to our growth. That's what these influencers do. So if we follow the above steps, what we're seeing right now, to identify influencers, this is going to, of course, take time, but it's going to help us really focus our efforts. So if you think about it, we need to be thinking about what it is that we're trying to achieve with our PR strategy. Who are those influencers that we need to reach out to so that they can open those gates and get us to our main audiences? What is the media that these influencers consume? And who are they and where are they operating, and why might they be relevant to our specific brand? There are different types of influencers, and I'll put a note here. There are mass media influencers, and you can, of course, guess what those are. You're thinking about the large followings and people that can be influential. You would have niche media, which is very industry oriented, and you also will have industry influencers. So making sure that you understand where these are, it's going to make a huge difference into your decision of what are the influencers that you're going to be picking. So if you have to think about the difference between niche media influencers versus industry influencers, because I know this is something that's going to come up. Think about the niche media influencers as bloggers, vloggers, social media personalities, podcasters, they want to add value, or we want to add value to their content rather, such as collaborations, product reviews, and others. When we're talking about industry influencers, they are interested in new ideas. We should provide insight and analysis. So if you have, if you can think about this, it would be industry experts, business gurus, event organizers, and whatnot. If you want more information on this, there is an extensive section on our PR playbook just devoted to the topic of influencers. And I think it deserves to take a closer look. So I invite you all to download the book if you haven't done it. For our fourth step, we are going to need to find a hook. So if you have to think about a hook, think about this as the way in which you present your news, and the way in which you present your story, your idea, in a way that it stimulates, that it generates interest from media, and that demonstrates your newsworthiness. So you need to break through all the noise. As I said earlier, if you're getting hundreds, literally hundreds of pitches every day, it is very likely that you are not gonna be calling anybody's attention. So you need to provide new insight. You need to provide a challenging perspective. You need to provide something new to show a narrative, and that's why developing the narrative is very, very important. Now, our step number 5: how do we earn media? And I think it all comes down to the strength of what we are pitching. How do we create a killer pitch? How do we have this amazing idea? Well, it requires a clearly defined business goal, or clearly defined business goals, a well-crafted narrative. This is what we're talking about: expert knowledge of the industry and current trends. So check out these graphs. So we have 3 different circles right here, or areas of focus. So we have business goals and the narrative. We have upcoming plans and announcements. And we have industry news and current events. So start asking yourself the questions that you see in here. So what is our business narrative? What are we experts on? So what's happening in the industry? What are our upcoming plans, and all of these that we're talking about? And in that intersection is where we need to find how we can link our narrative with our upcoming events to capture the imagination of those influencers, to capture the imagination of those gatekeepers. That is how you earn media. You basically earn the right. Of course, to make sure that this is done, we are going to have to develop a plan. And let us show you a specific example. So remember that intersection that we just talked about: defined business goal, a well-crafted narrative, and expert knowledge. And if we understand, our goal to be increasing our customer base, as well as building credibility and awareness, we can look at this 6-month plan for a fitness startup and see if this fits. So if we start taking, and I won't go in a lot of detail with this, you can check it out afterwards. And we also have some great examples that we can pass along on our playbook. On month number 1, for example, we have own media housekeeping. We first have linking, polishing, setup, profile on Crunchbase, just making sure that we get the basics done right. And the second campaign in there, or the second tactic in there, the psychology of millennials when it comes to money management. Now, if we think about how this is related to our business goal and how those business goals translate into PR goals, we see a correlation, and that is what we're trying to find. We're trying to find a compelling story. We're trying to add expert knowledge here, and we're trying to align that with our business goals. So let's get, like I said, let's get moving on to what the execution part it's going to be. So that we can move along in the process. So the first thing, sort of step 6, the first thing that we need to do is to do some housekeeping. These are the basics. So to begin with, take a look at that. Is our website, or your website, social media channels, branding, and local citations. If you are to think about this, and you have to think about the website, you just ask yourself: does the design stand up to the competition? Is this functionality free of errors? Is this an appealing website? I guess that's the first question. If you're looking into it, does it look like a good website? If we're now looking into social media channels or social channels, it's our LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's all completed and up to date. It's see the line with the image that we have on the website. In terms of branding, of course, do we have a formalized brand? Is there some work we need to do there? How much clarity is there into what we are saying? Do we have even a media kit available that talks about our brand and that unifies all of that concept? And of course, if you're a local business, you would probably need to have some SEO activity done. You're going to need to make sure that you have, enough information on like local directories and whatnot. This is very, very specific to making sure that we are showing or using the best version of ourselves. So think about content marketing activities, think about how we use that content to tell our story, and make sure that you're involving your team so that all of these basics and this housekeeping, it's done properly. And this is the first step there in terms of executing a proper PR growth strategy. Now, if you are to think now of what we have presented earlier in terms of the FinTech 6-month strategy, once you get into the details, you'll probably realize that there are very different types of pitches. There are very different types of things that we are doing to bring the attention. What you need to make sure of is that you consider what is the type of pitch that you're doing, what is the purpose or the objective of that pitch, and what is it that it should include? What are the specifics of the world-class press releases that we see out there, of the world-class guest articles that you see out there? I won't get into a lot of detail. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to see for each one of these, for the 5 types of pitches that we're seeing here, what the type is, what the objectives could be, and what it should include, refer to our PR playbook for 2019, and you will see a lot of details. For example, some of the details that you'll see in there is a press release, for example, is used to announce something and needs to include a pitch email summarizing the press release to send with a press release doc. So if I'm also being a bit superficial here, but you can find much more detail about what a press release includes if you go to the content that we are proposing. I just want to make sure that you get the actual concepts and not so much the details on this one. On the 7th step, as we mentioned earlier, you need to find and pitch to influencers. And influencers, think about them as gatekeepers. As I mentioned earlier, you have mass media influencers, you have niche influencers, you have industry influencers. So there are a lot of possibilities in there. So you have to identify those reporters. And you need to find those contacts, do your research, and then make sure that you use that research to pitch those influencers when you're supposed to be pitching them. So in some of the very specific details that you need to think about, just look below identifying reporters, craft a killer subject line, use video or visuals, so show off original research. We are trying to make sure that we identify those reporters, that we present the information that's going to be attractive to them, and that we contact them when we are supposed to be contacting them. Doing research on social media as well as to the contacts that, the content that they are creating is going to be very important to making sure that this actually happens. Step number 8, and I believe this to be a very, very, very important part of your PR strategy and PR for growth, especially. If we are looking into doing this, I think building a relationship with influencers is going to be very, very important. There are 3 things that we're suggesting here that can be done. Type, nurture, and events. And by type, what we're trying to say is we need to get in contact with them. We need to write to these journalists. We need to pitch to them first and build on any replies that are generated. And you will see along these 3 different things that really the main objective is to nurture all the replies and earn media wins. So if we are engaging with those influencers through social platforms, we will make sure that in the future we are able to engage in conversations in an easier manner. The second thing here is nurture. So send them a brief thank you, even when they respond negatively on what it is that you are trying to send them, whether it is an announcement, a guest article, a special page, something that you have there, even if you're asking for expert commentary or a guest appearance, make sure that you send them a brief thank you once they respond. This is about engaging. Events are very, very powerful as well, because you can combine them with other wins, making sure that you host your own events, and making sure that we are also supporting all those events that are created by publications. I just want to check, because someone was making sure that the audio wasn't off. I think everyone else can hear me. I just want to take 30 seconds to check on this. Michelle, I think, is the only person that cannot hear us. All right. I will continue. We will communicate with Michelle and internally to make sure that he receives all the audio on this. Step 9 is going to be amplifying and earn media wins. If you can print this out and post it in your office, it'll be fantastic. We are talking here about our victory lap. We have successfully aligned our business goals with our PR goals. We have started to execute, and we've started to get good responses, and we're starting to get articles out there. So what do we do then? Well, the first thing is to tell our staff and make sure everyone knows what's going on and that we got this amazing article or this amazing coverage or this amazing mention or this amazing interview. We should publish a blog post talking about it. Put the news out, of course, on social media channels. Do this properly by tagging the publications, by tagging the writers, by making sure you use the right hashtags in there. Tell your clients, partners, and customers. You can do this directly over social media. You can use your newsletter to do that, but make sure that everyone knows that this amazing result happened. And of course, include publications logo in your feature in section. This means make sure that this is a big publication that makes a significant impact in terms of legitimizing the work that you are doing, that this is added to your website in the featured in section of that website. Of course, media monitoring is also a big part of what you need to be doing to make sure that you know what is happening around your efforts. This is going to become much more important as we talk about keeping track of potential numbers, keeping track of outcomes/metrics. So in terms of media monitoring, it's all about the things that you see around. This is why we do this. We do this to make sure that we're keeping track of the results we get in earned media, that we keep track of brand sentiments, that we start aware of what's happening in terms of trending topics, that we are looking into improving our overall strategy, competitor research, and many other things. Media monitoring then is the place where we keep track of all of this, where we make sure that we know what is happening in media around what we're doing with our PR strategy. Very important that we are to cover this. If you are wondering what sort of tools you can use to do this, Google Alerts, Stockwalker Alerts, Mentions, Quora, Hootsuite, Twitter Advanced Search. If you are very interested into knowing specifically how these tools work, I highly recommend, once again, you download our PR for Growth playbook for 2019. The tools in there are specifically identified. They are also sections on themselves, so you can take a look into how to use some of these tools and why we're making those recommendations. Of course, step 11, it's going to be about looking at the numbers. And this is the final step. Measuring the results of the PR efforts should become a function of your monthly business reporting. But I want to make sure we all know and understand this specific part. The problem with measuring PR return investment is that much of the success of PR really is going to depend on brand sentiment, awareness, and those things we cannot measure. Those are very, very difficult to measure. There are statistics, though, that we want and will suggest you keep an eye on. just to make sure that you get a clear picture of what is going on with those. Not to say that that's the only thing you need to be thinking about, and keeping in mind, of course, that when we're talking about brand sentiment, when we're talking about awareness, it's going to be very difficult to do this. Take a look at what's on the right of this slide. So we have some qualitative and quantitative types of information that you should keep an eye on, as well as some website KPIs. Once again, if we're talking about quantitative, we're talking about mentions, shares of voice, media impression, backlinks. When we're talking about qualitative, we're talking about the sentiment. We're talking about that sort of awareness. What is that end audience reach? You can take a look at the basic website KPIs, and let's of course look in a bit more detail what this could look like. So if you have to understand this, and let's just take one as an example, in media impressions, in terms of quantitative information, is to keep track of how many people have actually seen your media mentions or your media mentions, right? How many people are putting backlinks that will go onto your website that is related to backlinks. Qualitative, or when we're talking about qualitative information, and we think about the sentiment, is are we developing the narrative that we initially set up to build? Is that sentiment in there? Is from the comments that we are looking out there, are we getting that right response that we were hoping that we would get? And that is something for us to keep track on. In terms now of the KPIs, which is when we're looking into numbers, and once again, I just want to make sure we're very clear on this. We need to be very careful into thinking that this is the only thing we need to look into, and we need to be very careful into thinking that if we are maybe making some progress in terms of organic traffic, that means that we are being successful in our PR for growth strategy. But keep in mind that these are very important KPIs to take a look at. Organic traffic, once again, the amount of traffic actually entering to the website, the amount of people that are actually looking into the content that we're putting in there, as well as the social engagement. Are we measuring the shares, the interactions, and the content that we have across different publications? I want to say that in terms of what we're talking about here, we are saying that PR for growth requires a carefully planned and well-executed PR strategy. And the idea is that it can provide a startup and a growing business with some of those intermediate steps that you are required to achieve your business goals. If those things are not aligned, once again, if your business goals and your PR goals are not aligned, you will not achieve growth. And we understand this to be the essence of the new perception of PR for 2019. We understand that the companies that are not doing this, they just simply won't grow. And if they grow, it won't be because of their communication strategy. We understand communications to be a very, very important part of your business objectives. With this, I want to say, I hope that the advice and all the instructions that we're giving here are useful to you. There is much more detail, like I say, on our book, PR for Growth Playbook 2019. You can visit our website, publicize.co/resource-center, to be able to see all this amazing content. Once again, what I've presented here today is the conceptual framework. There are some very specific insights and very specific tactics that you can follow to get started. The playbook will be an amazing place to get much deeper knowledge onto this. So I want to thank the marketing team, Roshin, Rudy, Pablo, for making sure that this content has been put up there for everyone, for making sure that this webinar it's live at this moment. So if you want to learn more at this point right now, I think we have a good number of questions that we can start answering right now. So let's start with Rick. I'm getting some help here, so bear with me. We lack the resources to handle all of these Does Publicize have a package to do it all for us? Ain't nobody got time for that. Thank you, Rick. The quick answer is yes. The long answer is we are very, very, very clear on this idea. The reason why the media landscape has changed is because publications are shrinking in the coverage that they're doing. Companies do not have money or time to be hiring large companies, and there needs to be a solution out there that thinks about PR from the perspective of the startups and the growing businesses, and that is exactly what we're trying to do. So there are different packages. I would suggest that if we want to have a conversation about this, that you shoot me an email, eddie@publicize.co, and we continue the conversation there. But the quick answer is yes. We have a question from Ruben. How does this apply to a B2B service business? This strategy applies for startups and all growing businesses. Whether these businesses are B2C or B2B, PR for growth as a strategy applies, because even if you are a B2B service business, what you're looking to do is to make sure that from the get-go, you've got the basics down, that you understand what your company goals are, that you have a well thought of narrative, that you have a well thought of plan, and that you execute that plan thinking that what you need is not only the links, but that you want to make sure that you are resonating in the media, that you're getting feedback, and that is bringing actual growth. So it will help, it will work out very well. To give you a very specific example, we were talking about fintech earlier in the presentation, and we said, this is a fintech company. In general, this could be a B2B. If we are looking into finding that intersection of the business goals, of the industry goals, and in the expertise, we're going to find ourselves in an industry a specific publication, probably trying to connect with an industry specific influencer. There might be an editor, or there might be a writer that would fit perfectly in that intersection. So for a B2B service company, that's where this whole strategy will play out. We have a question from Ben. Roughly how long do you think a full PR strategy would take to complete? Let's start with a year. Let's start with 12 months. Let's start thinking that there are many steps into making sure that you go from nobody knowing who you are to a company that has a solid narrative, a company that has a coherent message across different digital platforms, that it has built a network of influencers and gatekeepers that can get your message across. To do that, it's going to require time. It's going to require work month in, month out. I will start with a 12-month guide or a 12-month proposal. Once again, if you want to see a specific one on this, check out the playbook, where you can see a year-long strategy in there, I believe. And this is where I would start. I'd say 12 months is what we should be thinking about. Ignacio, can you please explain what social proof is? And that is a very important question. If we are to think about social proof, we need to be thinking about what it is that we are recognized for. When others see our profiles, what it is that we are recognized for, what it is that they see about us. Are they seeing our expertise? Are they seeing what we stand for in terms of business goals, in terms of industry goals, and in terms of our expertise? Do we have a coherent message out there? And that recognition is the social proof. Sometimes companies and CEOs of companies do not have that social proof, and it has to be built around the same concept of PR for growth. We have a question from Diana. You should, if I need results in the media, we need results right now, why taking care of my website and social media? Why is this important? I just need results on publications. This might be a two-part question, but I think the quick answer is the reason why you want to do that is because you want to show the best version of yourselves. That is the quick answer. You need and should want to show the best version of yourselves. And your website, your social media, any message that's out there that's related to your company, it is that message. When they see that, they will see who you are. They will see the type of work that you're willing to do. So if you're talking about a company that wants to do content or that wants to sell content, but on their website, their content has got typos and it's not very extensive, and it doesn't seem like they've got the expertise, it's going to make an influence on those using the services or the products that you have. And that's the reason why you should focus on that. So Alan has a really important question. Alan is saying, 12 months is a very long time for a startup. What would be the main focus for a startup in the short term with limited resources? I think this is also a two-part question. 12 months, it's 12 months. 12 months for a startup might seem like a very long time, but we need to put ourselves in the right mindset. And if we do this, that means our focus is on growth. And for our company, if we are not focusing on growth, then what are we focusing on? If our business objectives are not around growth and are not around how are we going to look in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, then what are we basing our decisions around? So if we start there, what we will realize is that we need to have very clear business goals. And when a company tells me that perhaps they don't know what's going to happen in the next 12 months or 6 months, it just tells me that perhaps we need to start thinking a bit harder on our business objectives that should be around growth. Once we have that, then we will be able to create that plan. And that plan should be around those things. Now, keep in mind that the short term, it's nothing more than one step out of your long-term strategy. If you have a 12-month plan, well, you're not going to execute the 12 months at once. You're going to execute month first once, then month second, month third, month four. And what you will see is that you will need different stages in that year-long strategy. And I'll be super happy to go over whatever are the details with your company, Alan, to make sure that you can understand how a 12-month strategy can be so beneficial, not only as an exercise for business decisions, but also beneficial for you as a company overall. I think we have another question, and I hope I answer your question. If not, just type again and keep banging this until we'll get it. Laura, she's asking, how much time before my company launches do I need to have a PR strategy? Very interesting. When we are thinking about launching a company, we've gotten all sorts of companies coming our way. We've got companies that have a product ready, but nobody has seen it. We've companies that have had a beta and they've got 5,000 users who have already tried the product. We have companies that have not talked to anyone about this and they want to do a PR stunt of some sort. They want to mention these different things. But I want to get started with the following thought, and is before we are even thinking about what the launch date for our service of our product is, I think we need to be thinking about the strategy. I think before you are thinking about launch and you say how much time, I would say as long as it takes to make sure that your business goals and your PR goals are aligned, because that is the key to a successful PR strategy. Because we have said that a successful PR strategy is a strategy that focuses on growth for your business and for your company. So I'd say as long as it takes you to build that PR strategy. Ruben is asking about my background. So I'm an entrepreneur at heart, gaining experience as we move. As a company, we've been working on this with my partner for around 5 years. We have a very, very talented team of strategists, content creators, including written content, video content, audio content. We also have an amazing marketing team, sales team, and most of our team members have had some sort of experience with the media world, with journalism, with the writing world. And some of us, of course, much more experience in the business world. And of course, my personal background, it's going to be around creating businesses, doing some mentoring sessions around digital marketing and also PR for startups. I don't know if there are any other questions out there, Pablo, for us. Thank you so much. Once again, everybody, this is available on our resource center. If you want to learn more about how to harness your PR to grow your business, you can schedule a free consultation with no other than Eddie Arrieta. So myself, the president of Publicize. This offer will be available until February 14th. We are working with a lot of startups, helping them grow. And I think this is an amazing opportunity to see what's out there. If you have some specific challenges and you want me to take a look on that with you, please send me an email as soon as this is finished, or just click on the consultation-Eddie. My email is eddie@publicize.co. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you, our marketing team, for this amazing work. I hope to see you guys very soon with another webinar. Talk to you soon. Bye. You're writing for, accept that content, and not only accept that content, but consider it important for its audience. And once you have gotten that outline and said to that writer or the editor of that publication, if they are interested, then you can start writing that. So the quick answer is create valuable content and then reach out to the editors of the publications that could publish that content. Another quick answer could be, if you are not a contributor right now to publications, try to find a way to become a contributor. Most publications today and in the foreseeable future will open up their publications to content from the outside. Now, not many writers and not many companies have realized this. And by the time they realize it, there will be huge competition. So there is some added value into getting started with this as soon as possible. And that's why one of our main building blocks for our PR strategies for our clients is guest articles. It's creating content and helping them become contributors to the largest publications around the world. So Rafael says, so has another question. Marco, if I didn't answer your question, please let me know. Rafael, so if PR is more tangible by seeing the growth, what are the metrics should I follow, since not always is possible to get a link in a press result, even online, to check through an analytics tool? If the audience is growing, what about leads? Not always is possible to measure if a lead came from a press result. I think over time, we're going to get much better at measuring where we are getting those leads and where those leads and whether or not those leads are actually becoming clients. But over time, what you'll realize is that the compounded value of PR will be very evident. The narrative that you are sharing should become evident in the types of clients that you are getting. So the quick answer from me on this is, first, if you didn't get a link out of a PR push, there is nothing to be measured there. If you actually get a link, then there will be something to be measured on. Your Google Analytics should tell you if that article that you got on these niche publications is resulting into actual results or not. Something else that you need to consider is that when you are thinking of PR as something tangible, you will also think that your PR activities are not only going to be determined by this one article or this one press release. You're going to be doing guest articles. You should be doing blog management. You should be doing video content. You should be doing audio content. And all of these, that's giving you visibility, because any PR that you're doing, any activities that you're doing that are giving you visibility, and that need to create or generate something. And as they are generating something, it will be evident on your Google Analytics. And there should be a way for you to measure that, at least with those Google Analytics. And if you are not yet doing that, then you should activate that. And if you're not doing that through social media, then you should do that. And if you're not using a newsletter yet, then you should use that newsletter and see how your audience would react to that. Let me see. Any more questions around here? Let me see if I missed any of the questions from the top. Okay, everybody, I have, as you can see from the presentation, we have gopublicize.co/consultation-Eddie. And that is the link to a free consultation, so we can get very specific on your company. We've talked a lot about general strategy. We've talked a lot about my opinion on general strategy as well as PR. But if what you are looking for is very specific details on what a consultation would look like, or to be more clear, more specific details on how a PR strategy will look like for your company, I will be doing this for free next week. So
go to the link that we have just shared on the chat, and I just did that. And once you do that, click on that link, set up a consultation, and we will talk next week about PR. We will talk about your strategy and your specific company. Please make sure to think about what I've talked about. Think about a new approach to PR and how we can achieve bigger and larger results for you. If there are no questions, or no more questions rather, I'm going to call this session to an end. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating. If you want to share this link, once again, we'll be sending you the recordings of it. And if you have any friends that would like to use this, please send them the link. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And until the next opportunity. Bye-bye.